In this session, we are going to discuss about the human eye or the anatomical structure of the human eye. This is the first part of the session in which we'll be discussing about the two layers of the eyeball, and then the third layer, that is retina, and some other associated structures will be discussed in the second part. So this is the basic structure of the eye that we usually see, and today we are going to discuss about all these parts. So eye is one of the main sense organs of the body, is one of the 5 sense organs of the body, and is responsible for the sense of sight or for the sense of vision. And the diameter of the eyeball is 25 millimeters, or that comes out to be 2.5 centimeters. And only 1/6 of the portion of the eyeball is visible from outside. So if this is the total eyeball, then only the anterior 1/6 of the portion is visible from outside, and rest the whole part is embedded in the orbital cavity. So now we are going to look at the 3 layers of the eyeball. The first outermost fibrous layer, that is known as sclera. The second middle vascular layer, that is termed as choroid, and the inner nervous layer, that is known as retina. So in the first diagram you can see the outer fibrous layer, that is sclera. The outer fibrous layer consists of the sclera and the cornea. The middle vascular layer consists of choroid, which forms ciliary body and the iris. Then the inner nervous layer forms the retina, or it constitutes the retina, which consists of the optic disc, the blind spot or the optic nerve, the macula lutea, the fovea centralis. All these things come in the innermost layer of the eyeball, that is the retina. Now we are going to discuss the first layer of the eyeball, that is sclera, or the outermost layer. So sclera is tough, fibrous and white in color. So when you look into the eye, or when you see your own eye in the mirror, the white portion that you can see is termed as sclera. It provides shape and protection to the eyeball. Since it is the outermost layer of the eyeball, and the main purpose of any outermost layer in any structure is protection and providing particular shape to the structure. So similarly here the sclera is performing that function of providing the shape and the protection of the eyeball. So in this diagram you can see sclera. This white portion is the sclera. In the eyeball, the outermost layer or the white layer is the sclera. Then the outermost layer or the sclera modifies in the central portion of the eye to form a transparent and avascular structure that is known as cornea. So if you look at this outermost layer, this is sclera, and in the central portion of the eye, this is forming a transparent structure, transparent and avascular structure. Avascular means without the presence of any kind of blood vessels. So this avascular structure is termed as cornea. This is the structure of the cornea that contains endothelium, then descent membrane, stroma, then Bowman's layer and epithelium. So this is the structure of the cornea, which is the transparent avascular layer, and this is mainly present in the central portion of the eyeball. And the rest white colored portion is just a continuation of this structure, but that is known as sclera, and the transparent portion is known as cornea. And now we come on to the middle layer, that is choroid. The choroid is bluish in color due to the presence of blood vessels. In cornea there were no blood vessels present, that is why it was transparent. But here in choroid, due to the presence of the blood vessels, it has got blue color. It is also known as uveal layer. In the anterior 1/3, it thickens to form the ciliary body. So ciliary body are just an extension of these choroid, are just a modification of these choroid, and in the posterior 2/3, it spreads as a thin layer. So if you see in this structure, this is showing the uveal layer consisting of iris, ciliary body and the choroid. So here below the white layer, this orange layer which you can see is the choroid, or the second layer of the eyeball. This choroid is modifying into a thicker structure that is known as ciliary body. And after the ciliary body comes the iris. This iris is also a part of the second layer of the eye, or the choroid. Then the ciliary body is attached to the suspensory ligament and it encloses the lens. So the ciliary body are only responsible for holding the lens in its place, and it continues forward to form the iris, and ciliary body are the ones which form the iris. The ciliary body contains two types of smooth muscle fibers that play a role during accommodation. The first is circular fibers and the second one is longitudinal fibers. So accommodation means changing the size of the lens in order to focus on the object which we want to see. So these two muscle fibers are responsible for the accommodation in the ciliary body, circular fibers and the longitudinal fibers. Now we come to the iris. This is also a part of the second layer only. Iris is the pigmented and the opaque layer that gives color to the eye. The different colors of the eye that you see, as you see here, it is blue in color. This eye which is shown here is blue in color. So the different colors that you see of the eye are due to the presence of iris. It is due to the different amount of or different concentration of the pigment that is present in the iris which gives the eye its characteristic color. The iris has a central aperture called pupil which allows light to reach in the interior of the eye. So here also you can see a black hole. This black aperture is known as pupil, and this is the space that is provided between the iris to allow the amount of light entering into the eye, and this pupil is controlling the amount of the light that is entering into the eye. You all might be knowing that when we are in dark places or when there is dim light, the pupil expands because the amount of light that is needed to enter inside the eyeball for proper vision is less in the environment, so that is why the size of the pupil increases. And whenever we are in bright light, the size of the pupil decreases because so as to allow lesser light to enter into the eyeball. So this is the function of the pupil. Then there are two muscles in the iris that determine the size of the pupil. Since pupil is an aperture in the iris, so it is the responsibility of the iris to control the size of the pupil. And how it is going to control the size of the pupil? With the help of two muscles. These two muscles are, first one is sphincter pupillae and the second one is dilator pupillae. This sphincter pupillae is containing the circular muscle fibers, whereas the dilator pupillae is containing the radial muscle fibers. So these are the two muscle fibers that are present in the iris which are determining the size of the pupil, or which are helping to change the size of the pupil in order to allow the amount of light that needs to be entered into the eye for proper vision. So here also in this diagram also you can see different colors of the eye. This colored portion which you can see here in all the kinds of eye is iris, and the black aperture is known as pupil. So this is about the first and the second layer of the eyeball. Now the third layer, the retina and the associated structures along with retina, we are going to discuss in the second part of this session. Thank you.